Warning: MF Uncensored contains adult language and discussion. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MF Uncensored. Don't forget, if you guys are listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere you get your podcast. You can also find more of our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to not only this show, but some of our other shows like the Multiverse Fancast and Cinematic Adventures. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul, and with me via the Zoom studio, after weeks of technical difficulties and after trying and trying and rescheduling and trying more, I am so honored to have Miss Levia Hartman in the chat. Levia, how are you today?
Hi, yes. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
I'm so good. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, because obviously nobody really knows how the show happens behind the scenes, we have been trying to make this interview happen for, I want to say like 3 weeks.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it was a combination. I know I had some work related scheduling problems. We attempted to record like 2 weeks ago, and technology just didn't agree with us. We had no luck in terms of getting Zoom to work and then getting recording. So we had to keep rescheduling and we had to keep trying. But
Yeah.
I'm so excited to finally sit down with you. So thank you so much for being flexible and jumping on today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So Levy, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Hi. So my name is Levia Hartman.
Via.
I'm the author of Crown Up, and I live in Colorado. It's so right now it's cold, so as you can see, I'm wearing my jacket. But yeah, I'm a public speaker as well, and I'm originally from Liberia, which is West Africa. So if you notice, I have a deep accent. uh, but yeah, that's basically my story.
So you grew up though with a little bit of a difficult childhood, like very challenging, and just can you tell our listeners a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, my childhood, is has not always been like, rainbow and sunshine. I thought, like coming to America, would make things brighter. But unfortunately, like I ended up in a fostering home. So for several years.
Mhm.
And so basically, I just live in America by myself. Most of my family, they are back home. So I came to America because, there was like a civil war in my country, and I was trying to escape to come to America to, for the American dreams, quote
Yeah.
unquote. So, yeah,
Yeah, so America, and it's very nice on paper, and it's very like land of opportunities and land of dreams, but it is exceptionally challenging to actually
oh,
make
yeah.
those things happen. And what was the biggest challenge of your transition from your country to ours?
Oh, the biggest challenge, I would say the financial. Because, I thought, that everything would be free in America, but no, nothing is free.
Nothing. There is
You have to
nothing
work for it.
free. Oh God,
No.
like, and it's even crazier now. Like nowadays, everything's so expensive, and just it's wild. When I was young, when I was young, my dad could work and my mom could stay home, and that was normal. That was the way that it
Yeah.
was. One person worked. Now, like I have a full time job. My wife has a full time job. We're constantly passing each other. We don't see each other nearly as much, but it's
Oh,
it's just really strange and very different how they say that this is the land of the free, but there's nothing. The people are
mm,
free, but unfortunately, nothing else is.
yeah.
So for you though, like you obviously you went into the foster care system, and America is known for many things, but good foster care is not one of our strongest suits. So can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about growing up in the foster care system?
Sure. One of the biggest issues I had was the culture shock,
Mm,
because my first home was a white home. So trying to adapt from, African American to a white home, that was like, what? It's like being thrown to the, like a jungle. And so I think that was because of that, it was hard for me to adapt. I went to the several different homes. It was a combination of, the listening to, their culture, the music, the food. And so that really very make it difficult, missing my families.
yeah. Oh, that's gotta be rough. What was the thing that you missed the most, like from your culture?
Oh, definitely food. We had a lot of, rich, everything is fresh, the rich food, everything is fresh. And so I really miss that.
It's funny because the food in America is very processed. It's very make as much as you can and
Oh, yeah.
healthy, not really. Like my wife has a gluten sensitivity, so she has trouble with gluten. We went
Mm.
to Italy last year and she was able to eat everything there and have no problems
Ooh.
whatsoever. So like
Oh,
it's crazy how in America the food is so heavily processed and changed that people can't handle it anymore. It's just not as good.
right.
And then
Yeah.
obviously you have a very rich culture of music and entertainment and things like that. Was it hard going to a country where the entertainment in itself is totally different?
Oh, yes, it is. Like, for me, I love to dance. So every time I listen to music and dance, they will look at me and be like, what's wrong with you? Why you dancing so weird? I'm so energetic. Like when I go to church, like
Mhm.
I'm the one that's dancing, and everybody just, like clapping. I'm like, how do yeah,
I've never been to a church though. Like when I was young, I went to church very often, and then as I got older, it just kind of became one of those things that I privately practice. But
uh,
I've never been to a church where they do like all the big clapping and like we the church that I went to was a Lutheran church. That's how I was raised. It's very similar. It's Christianity, but it's very similar to the Catholic faith in a lot of regards. So it was a lot of just standing there properly singing, and that was it. Like nobody moved around, nobody danced, nobody got
yeah.
excited. It's something that I do miss, like, having that kind of community, though. So for you, when you came in, how did that impact your education? Because obviously you wrote a book, like, that you gotta you gotta have something going on to write a book. Like, I know I could not sit down and write a book even though I really want to at some point, but how is your education impacted from going from one country to another and then being in the foster care system?
Yeah, so great question. My education, I think for me, it was easier because I came, very young.
Mhm,
And it was easier for me to adapt to, learning the English. Like I started, I think maybe like elementary school, if I remember. And so the education part was very easy for me to adapt versus, my mom, she was an adult. So, it's kind of hard for her to, learn
mhm,
English. And compare the education to Africa, I think America is a lot more easy, I guess, versus Africa is more strict, like if you don't do your homework and stuff, they would like, excuse my language, they will whip your butt. Like they'll be like, so in
yeah.
America, it's,
So it's funny you say that. When I was in school, I was not the best student. So if a teacher called home because I wasn't doing work, oh, the whooping I would get from my mother. Like it was coming and it was ready. Like my parents were very strict with schoolwork, and if I didn't do it, I was punished. In
right,
any regards, whether it was like no television, no this, like there was a punishment involved. Nowadays,
right,
if a parent gets a phone call from a teacher, the parent gets mad at the teacher saying that their kid is perfect and like
exactly,
you just don't know how to teach my child. It's very strange how American education has gotten very interesting in terms of like the teachers are responsible for all these children, but then like the parents get mad at it's very strange. I'm not a big fan.
right. I understand.
Now you mentioned your mother. How did your relationship with your mother evolve as you guys came to America?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, it was a combination of a culture shock, as an adult. Like when you come to America, everything's so different. You're just like, why am I here? Like, I don't like this. This is different. And for me, again, it was easier for me to adapt because I was going to school. I
Mhm,
was, interacting with other people, and I was kind of losing my culture, my language. And so that kind of separated us apart. And like, it was like me against her. It's like we are totally different strangers. She was doing things that, she was not supposed to, that the American culture. And so she didn't follow the rule, that she will like abuse me like emotionally. And so that's why, I was put in the foster home
mhm.
separate from her.
Right. So
Yeah,
it's interesting because obviously children learn very differently. Their children are always learning and they're
right.
always like they're sponges. They just absorb information. Like my cousin, his side of the family, he married a Greek girl and their kids speak Greek. And it's like just normal. It's just totally common. And they just learned it by listening. They didn't learn it from like sitting down and reading books. They learned it just from hearing their mother talk Greek. And it's just wild how kids can learn like that.
Right.
So for you though, like obviously it led to you writing a book about your experience. But before we get that, can you tell me a little bit about some of your memories of the actual Civil War before we get into your book?
Okay, so for me, the Civil War happened when I was like very young. So I didn't really, experience the actual war, but it was my mom, obviously she was there when it happened. And so when she escaped, she took me,
Mhm.
to a different country where we were refugee, we were in a camp. So as far as the war go, like I haven't like actually experienced it, seen it,
Mhm.
but it was my mom, that I was infant, as a baby. And so when she escaped, like I grew up in a refugee camp.
Mhm.
So that's
And
kind of my memory I had.
I gotcha. So this whole experience inspired you to write a book about everything that happened to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. So my book is again is based on my experience as a my childhood trauma and also basically my journey coming from Africa to America. And it basically focuses on the American part, living in America in my life. And so this book is based on my journal. It started as my personal journal and I turned it into a book. So it's not really nothing too deep.
Mhm.
I want something, fun, but also kind of easy to read for my audiences.
Yeah, I'm that audience. I like easy to read. I'm a very simple guy, and when I read, like, don't get me wrong, I love a good book, and my wife loves books. She's such a book nerd. But for me, like, if it's not simple and catching me, I'm just not interested. There are plenty. My wife can't put down a book. If she picks up a book, she's going to read it. Either she's going to read it or she's going to listen to it. If I don't get caught in a book in the first couple of pages, I'm not reading it. I'm just putting it away, and it's something that's going to collect dust.
Right, I understand.
So you mentioned some of your childhood trauma. Was this a way for you to kind of come to peace with the way that your childhood was and kind of move on?
Yes, definitely. When I wrote this book, for me, again, it was my personal journal. And I realized that when I share my story to other people, they feel very inspired. And so when I share the story, that I find a peace and healing within not only myself, but I can also, inspire and encourage others that may have, the same experience, with finding their self-identity, know who they are. And so, yeah,
And in the book, you talk about how your mother Alice became mentally unstable. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
yes, it took me like 2 decades for me to find out because I tell you, I was in my early 20s when we met again.
Mhm.
And I realized, oh my gosh, she's not well because, as a kid, I didn't know what's going on. Like one time I had to take her to emergency room
Mhm.
for her to, like get the help that she needed. But of course, she refused to help. You can't force people for the treatment.
Right.
It was like her mentally, she wasn't thinking straight, like she's already, paranoid, like somebody's out to get her, the people's against her. And I realized, like this is not healthy.
Yeah. And especially in America, mental health has always been a very strange kind of process. It's gotten better in more recent years, especially in regards to survivors and trauma victims and even men too. Like there's a very big push for men to get mental health nowadays. But obviously America it's not our strongest suit. We when it comes time to like take care of somebody's mental capacity, there was always a very strange taboo about it. Like if you went to go
Right.
get mental health, then you were just crazy. There was something wrong with you. And I'm glad that it's different now. How did that resolve itself for Alice?
Unfortunately, she went back home.
Oh
You know,
gosh.
she's in Africa because I realized, like she would not survive here.
Hmm.
That America is not for her. And I'm not like licensed, like medical licensed to take a mentally ill person like her. And I think it'll be better for her to be her own surrounding, the things that she familiar with, the things that she knows.
Yeah. I mean, obviously wherever she's comfortable, they would probably be the best for her mental capacity. Was
Yeah.
it very difficult meeting her though after so many years?
Oh, yes, it was. It's just so funny because I met her, it was like at a bus stop, which
Really?
I talk about in my book. Yeah, in my book. Like it was at a bus stop, after many years of not seeing her. And I was like, wow, she's she's still alive. And so when I met her, she didn't change. It was the same old thing, blaming me, blaming the America things, why things happen because it happens to her. And again, I tried to get her the help that she needed, take her to the facility, the rehab facility to get a mental treatment, but it was just a lot of stress.
Yeah, it's again, mental health in America, it's very strange, especially dealing with kids too. Like I'm in a job where I deal with kids and I deal with a lot of mental health issues. And like you need cooperation from every single person. And especially for adults. Like if an adult gets voluntarily brought to a facility, they can just leave. Like, all
Yeah,
right, this isn't for me. This isn't working. Or you get people that go onto medication and then they feel better and they're like, well, I'm done with the medication. I don't need it anymore. And then they suddenly go really far back the other way. But,
yep.
I'm glad that you did get to meet with your mom at least, and have some experiences with her in adulthood. Now, for you though, like obviously you've been through a lot of adversity and you've shown really good, incredible resilience. Who or what were your pillars of strength when things got tough? Like where did you find that strength?
So I think for me, it was my faith. Like, as I mentioned before, going to church and be around people that had the same belief as me, it really helps. And number two, I also realized that self-love is very important.
Yeah.
Because, when you rely on other people to like love you, to nurture you, you always gonna feel disappointed and hurt. And I realized, like, I can't put that responsibility, on my mom. She loves me, but just in a different ways. So I had to find love within myself, accept who I am, and just move on
And
and find.
like for people to find self-love and really accept themselves, like it's not easy. I grew up, I suffered with a lot of self-esteem issues and I was constantly like I still constantly say that my wife married down when she married me because she's like the
Oh,
most
stop
gorgeous
it.
woman in the world. And
Oh,
she's hanging out with the weird guy who does podcasts in his little podcast studio. But for you, like what was that process like trying to just find acceptance with yourself?
yeah, I find accepted with myself. It was, again, when I wrote the journal, well, excuse me, when I look back at my journal, and I was like, whoa, girl, what happened to you? You've been through a lot. And so, like, I think looking at my journal and then looking at my life right now, I'm like, yeah, you got this, girl. You're a survivor. And I was able to just find peace within myself. And obviously, I found a love. My husband, he also played a big part of my life too. So when he loves me, I know that, that's all I need.
See,
um,
I like that. That's really nice. And same thing, like my wife, she helped me find a lot of self-acceptance and helped me reevaluate things like past traumas that I didn't even know existed and push me to be better. And I think having the right support system in our lives is probably the biggest thing you can ever do for mental health.
yes.
So, obviously, you have a book, and I'm very curious. Can you explain what the title exactly means? It's Crown Up My Story My Way. Why Crown Up?
So kind of that came actually through a dream. Like I literally woke up my dream. I was like, crown up. Because the title, I want it to be simple, easy, to the point. Again, it's about self-identity. It's based on for women, and in the early 20s women and above, people that are struggling to find their self-identity. So the crown up is like kind of religious title, because
Mhm.
when Jesus, wear the crown. Well, he didn't wear the crown, but the
The Crown
people
of
still
Thorns,
know
yeah.
yeah, people still know who he is
Mhm.
even without a crown. So he can wear the crown, mentally, physically. It's just how you present yourself to the world.
See, I like that. Having that mentality, that strong mentality of being like a king or a queen, just in the right ways, obviously. Like, I'm not going to go strutting down the street saying I'm the king of all of you. It's just how you present yourself, which
Right.
I really like. So, obviously, it started off as a journal and you wanted to adapt it into an actual book. What was that process like? Did you have to go to a publisher or how did you get the book going?
Yeah, this is self-published because I didn't want to go to the, big publisher with traditional way.
Right.
So basically, I reached out to one of the publisher, and they were interested in the story, and they published it. And obviously, I paid a fee to pay to publish it as a self-publisher. But yeah,
Is it word for word, or did you have to like go back and rewrite any of it, or did you have somebody else help you write it, or is it literally just your journal as a book?
well, yeah, somebody had to, edit the book and put into like a book format. I mean, a lot of the stuff, that I sell in my journal, obviously it had to be more professional and to make it more readable.
Yeah, because obviously books are a lot of people think you just like sit down, write a book, and then you just print it and it's done. It's
No,
it's a it's a big process.
yeah,
And
yep.
obviously then it comes time to how you distribute the book. How do you distribute your book?
Yeah, this book is on Barnes& and Noble, Amazon, and also my website at info@leviahartman.com is the website. You can find me there on social media, like Facebook, Instagram,
Yep, and
everywhere.
that's how you and I connected with through Facebook. And it's just
Yeah,
it's crazy nowadays how it's easy to like connect with guests, especially and now Zoom, even though we had trouble with Zoom. It's still probably
yeah.
one of the best ways to, like, talk to people. Now, for you, though, looking back, like, you've got a lot going on, and you're at a great place now, it seems. But looking back, how do you perceive your journey? Like, when you think of all that you've been through, how do you think about it now?
About my journey, oh my gosh. For me, I would say it's like learning experience.
Mm.
It's learning experience and a continue to growth. Yes, right now everything is good, but it's not, I'm still learning to accept myself. I'm still, learning to grow. And I see myself someday to help other people. That's a message. It's not all about me. I want to help other people, young women like me, to for self-acceptance, self-esteem, and also help them to grow their faith, whatever their beliefs may be, just accept who you are.
See, it's funny because my next question was actually going to be, "What message do you hope readers take away from your story?"
Oops.
And you answered it. Like, I always think that that's the testament to a really good interview is that, like, the questions just organically happen because I don't script my interviews. Like, I used to when I first started doing interviews a few years ago, I tried, and I would sit there like a robot. "All right, and you wrote this book what day?" And it just didn't work. So I'm
Right.
really glad that you got to the next question that I had. Is your book tailored towards specifically women and trauma survivors, or do you think everybody can get something out of it?
Yeah, everybody can get something out of it, even male, but again, mostly it's toward women
Mm.
because a lot of women, when they experience a lot of trauma, they don't know how to take care of themselves. They forget. They take other people, and sometimes we forget about ourselves. And that's again the title is a crown up because I want every woman to feel, identified within something bigger than themselves. You
That's
know.
awesome. Yeah. And I think that that's an important message, especially nowadays where, you know, everyone feels a little bit smaller and feels a little bit like they don't matter in some regards. And I think having anything that says, "Hey, you do matter and you can do great things," I think that it's just important. And I'm really glad that you're able to share that with people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, obviously, though, we're at a point where you have this book out and you're doing all this great work. What's next?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, what's next is I want to continue to express a message or spread my message and do more public speaking. So I want to do, host an event where I can have women together. We can share our testimony, our story, and kind of encourage each other. And that's why I have my website so everybody can contact me, message me, I can be their body and be like, hey, I need somebody to talk to. I'm here for you, girl, you know?
I like that. Now, for somebody who struggles, surprisingly, I struggle with public speaking, despite the fact that I have a podcast and I talk to people all the time. If you put me in front of a crowd, I'm going to stumble through my words a little bit. Like I can get by, but public speaking is not my forte. How did that start for you?
Well, sometimes you just have to get out of your comfort zone, do what you can. Don't let your circumstances, that kind of hold you back.
Hmm.
Yes, I know that my English is still broken. I'm obviously, as you can see, but you know what? It doesn't matter because if it's from the heart, then your message is gonna get out.
Oh,
People
yeah.
gonna hear you.
So have you like been on stage to speak to people or do you do it privately? Like, how does your process work?
Yeah, I did several public speaking, two, and one of the big. I think I just did last one like a couple of weeks ago. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to do more public speaking and to connect with more people.
See, I'm like in awe, and you're just standing here on a stage, like like I'm sitting here going, why am I getting anxious? I'm not going on stage, but like to speak to a large group, like it's just such a really cool thing, and like again, it was super impressive, and you know, obviously, I completely understand everything you're saying. Just so you know, I know you mentioned your English being broken. I was like, I understand everything, but I think it's also because, like you said, when it comes from the right place and it has the right energy, people just connect to it, and like words are words, but intention is really what people gravitate towards.
Right. Yes, sir. Yep.
So we're getting towards the end of our interview, and at the end of our interviews, we always like to play a little game if you're interested. And it is rapid fire questions where I take a couple of questions and it's literally just I ask and off the top of your head, you just think of an answer. And I try and tailor it to whoever I'm speaking to if you're interested in playing.
Definitely. Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Let's go.
Okay. So the first one, what's one word that defines your journey?
Ooh, one word. Survivor.
I like it. I had a feeling it was going to be something along those lines, so I'm really glad. What's a memory from your country that you cherish?
Ooh, memory. I'm going to say getting on the a bus. The first time I got on the bus, because we don't have transportation.
Right.
So when I got on the bus to go to the camp, as I mentioned earlier, I think that's one of the biggest memories I had from my culture
That's
or from my
awesome.
country. I should say.
I like it. What is a book or movie that resonates with you?
Oh, I'm going to say Precious. Have you seen
Oh,
it?
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my God, that I haven't thought about that movie in forever. That's a great movie.
Yeah,
Oh, I really
because it has a lot of, like topics that people can relate to. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could cry just watching it.
it's a tough movie to watch. Like it's real.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. That now I'm gonna have to sit down and watch that movie. I haven't thought about that movie in so long. It's really good. I do like that movie. All right, what is your go-to motivational quote? What's a quote that just resonates with you?
You are not your circumstances by Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Well,
Yeah.
I got chills on that one. All right, last one. If you could go back and say something to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say, be ready for the journey. Be ready for the journey because it's not going to be a smooth ride.
See, it's funny because like when I ask questions like that, like telling your younger self or giving your younger self advice, usually it's do this differently. For you, I like how you didn't want to change anything in your journey. You just wanted to remind your younger self just to be strong.
Yep.
It sounds like you're very proud of where you came from, and I can feel that when you speak about it.
Thank you. Yes.
So obviously, I know you mentioned some of the places that people can find your material. If you want to just mention it again, in case people need to hear it one more time.
Okay, sure. So I have our website, leviahartman.com. That's leviahartman.com. And also Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. You can also find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram.
All the good social medias, all the fun ones.
Yes.
What is your Instagram in case anybody wants to follow?
I just Levia Hartman.
Nice, simple and easy, just the way that I like it.
Yep.
But this was fantastic. I had a really good time talking to you. We're gonna also, my wife and I are gonna check out your book, so keep an eye out for an order from us because we love books. My wife runs a book page. If you guys have been listening to us for long enough, you know what it is. It's Bibliophiles Assemble, and we love having new books, especially the people that we talk to, because I used to try and get the book beforehand, but I would never read the book beforehand because I just like. And for me, it's a
Okay.
lot. For me, it's just easier. Like after I talk to someone, especially somebody that I connect with and resonate, and we talk. It's so much more fun to read their book afterwards and be like, "This is what they were talking about." Like, and it makes me want more too. So, yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is so much fun. Yeah, I had a great time.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Definitely. Thank you.